Sorry, guys. My Facebook app crashed again. Sometimes it does that, and so did Livestream. So, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. But luckily, that was just a part one. So that's a very short part one. This is part two, and this goes into the heart of what I really wanted to talk about with you guys. And that is basically about the Libertarian National Convention currently underway in Orlando, Florida. So, I've heard some good things coming out of it and some bad from the looks of it. I saw a little bit of the Veep debate from yesterday. I gotta watch the rest of it, but my initial impression so far is that it went very well. All things considered, for a vice presidential debate, it went pretty well. I thought Will Colley kicked ass, so did Alicia Dern. The two that didn't do so well, in my opinion, that looked pretty boring and made me want to go, was Larry Sharpe, this African-American vice presidential candidate. He was boring me to death. And his answers were not extremely libertarian at all. And so was William Weld. William Weld was boring me. Yes, the gun grabber who should not be in our party whatsoever. So, that being said, we got a lot going for us. We got a lot of work to do, just to turn this party around. And my understanding, according to one delegate with whom I'm friends, good friends, that delegate has become pretty much of a very close friend of mine, more along the lines of a best friend, if you will. My understanding is that the platform has remained the same. They kept all the delegates voted to keep the platform as it is, currently the same. I saw some of the business regarding omissions. I guess maybe there was appendments to the platform, what have you. And some people were, there was a lot of bickering back and forth. I was watching the live streaming of the convention, not through C-SPAN, because that won't be happening until later tonight, but I saw it through the Ustream.tv live streaming of the convention. So I thought they did a pretty good job. Now, I will have to say, this is going to be an interesting next couple of days, because we're going to find out who is really going to be the presidential victor at this beauty pageant race, we like to think of it as. And the thing that really gets me is, Gary Johnson won the straw poll last night. No, it wasn't last night, it was the night before. And he won the straw poll at the pre-debate, where he said that William Weld was an original libertarian. And the reason he said that was because Austin Peterson, another candidate, I gained more respect for Austin this time around, because even though I'm still supporting McAfee, I gained a little bit more respect for Austin this time, because he made the question available to Johnson, which was, well, in 2008, you supported Barack Obama. Crickets chirping. And in 2012, your candidate, your vice presidential pick, didn't support Ron Paul, didn't endorse him, he didn't endorse you, but he did endorse Mitt Romney. This year, your Veep pick, before he became a libertarian, endorsed John Kasich, just before he dropped out, by the way. And why didn't he endorse you? So Johnson, who was baffled and startled by the question that Austin Peterson, and everybody clapped at Austin, by the way, But, and I saw the video on this and I was like, wow. And what I liked about it was Austin was being very, very vocal on it, people, because he basically slammed him with this questioning, that line of questioning, and people were clapping when Gary Johnson joined. His answer was like, "Well, I was, I was." I can't remember. It wasn't the word amazed, but he was like bewildered or whatever the word he used. I can't remember now at the top of my head. It just escaped me. Maybe you guys can help me with the exact quote here, but it was something along the lines of, well, I wanted him to join my ticket. We were running on separate tickets. I wanted him to join my team. So William Weld is an original libertarian. And it all started because Austin Peterson just told, Gary Johnson that William Weld endorsed Barack Obama in 2008. He endorsed Mitt Romney in 2012, and he endorsed John Kasich this year. So what does that tell you? Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Okay, so I just don't get it. Okay, you got this guy who is a gun grabber who ruled with an iron fist in Massachusetts. He's basically a secret Democrat who was governing as a Republican, but he was governing like a Democrat. He may as well have been a Democrat. And if he becomes the vice president of the United States under our banner, he will carry out his assignment as a vice president like a Democrat. Gary Johnson is a liberal Democrat, in my opinion. And some people were just right on the ball. They actually took the words out of my mouth. See? Words just going out there like that. So, even though he was a Republican, or officially a Republican, and he was in governor officially as a party association being a Republican, what really gets me the entire time is, well, he was a secret Democrat. And his spending was atrocious. He increased spending at the state level by 75%, which says a lot about his political aspirations and his motivations. And, this is a guy who really, really went out of his way to make a complete ass of himself. When he ran from 1995 to 2003, he was putting on this dog and pony show act that, I cut government. I'm trying to keep it small. And, I did this. I did that. My greatest accomplishments. And he was reveling in it, and he was trying to sell us this idea, this image that he was the greatest governor in the state of New Mexico, when evidence is now coming out that that's not really the case at all. And his spending was through the roof. He spent about, if I'm not mistaken, I think his spending, his budget went up 250% more than when he first came into office, and that his spending, I'm talking, discretionary spending here, it went up 75%. So he spent more than what the taxes were taken in, and he ballooned the deficit in the state. So how the state was actually better off while he was governing like a Democrat, I just don't get it. The Gary Johnson I knew back in 2000 when I first became a part of the party. Actually, I joined the Libertarian movement and the party back in September of 1999. And right around 2000, just prior to the election of 2000, and this is when George W. Bush and Al Gore were running for president neck and neck, and we had our candidate, Harry Brown at the time, who I supported wholeheartedly. I loved the guy. You know, the problem was that a lot of the Republicans have lied to the people in this country. They said they're here to cut government, they're here to keep it small because the government sucks. If the government sucks so much, then why did they grow it? Why did they grow it when Bush was in office? See, they're not anarchists. Republicans are not anarchists. They are nothing more than limousine conservatives. They have a lot of rich power, and they're in bed with Wall Street. And so are the Democrats. The Democrats are in bed with Wall Street. Look at Jamie Dimon's Chase of Morgan Chase. You know, that bank, right? He's the CEO of that entire bank. And this is a guy who is a self-professed Democrat, has given hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Democratic Party. And even though he complained about Barack Obama's tax policies and all that, this is a guy who's been president of that banking institution for years and years. So this is a disaster of epic proportions. When 2000 hit along, okay, we were still along the trenches of the Clinton economy. In some ways, that was even better than what Bush got us into. Then all of a sudden, and I'm not saying that because I love Bill Clinton, he was my favorite guy, and I was voting Democrat or whatever. You know, I'm not saying that I love the guy. But to be fair, his economy was a little bit better. But he was not a very good president overall. He had the morals of a TC fly, and a lot of it had to do with moral relativism. But I'm not going to go into that part there. But the one thing that really got me the most was, and I hate to say this because I hate to be the one, and I'm going to come across as a bad guy to my fellow libertarians when I say this, but, you know, Harry Brown wasn't very truthful and very honest about his campaigns, practices, that he was marrying himself to the LNC at the time. There was a big scandal that blew up. Membership at one point prior to the unraveling of the party due to the scandals, it was hovering over 33,000 members at that point. Then it went down below 20K when the scandals came out, and the party was having a hard time recovering from that. So when that happens, you know, Michael Badnarik got nominated in 2004. He was the underdog. He wasn't really a great candidate. In some ways, I think Aaron Russo should have gotten the nomination and not Mike, but it's ancient history. You know, this is 2016, no longer 2004. That was 12 years ago. So what happened was, about 2 years later, after 2004, when Bush was running up against John Kerry, the convention delegates decided to shred the entire platform, about 80% of the platform, as I recall. And this was in Orlando, no, or not, I'm sorry, not in Orlando. This was in Portland, Oregon. And the Portland Convention was a disaster of epic proportions. There was a lot of infighting. There was, you know, a lot of the purists and the anarchists were battling over the soul of the party. And the pragmatists, and I'm talking the big government types, the Linos, won. They won by a huge landslide. And they knew that. So that's the way it went out. And, you know, I just think that one of the biggest reasons why we lost is because we really allowed the new libertarians, and that was from the Libertarian Reform Caucus headed by Carl Milstead Jr., who was a complete douchebag. But, you know, I'm just ranting about a past item that's no longer relevant. But we saw what happened with the party over the years, and that led to Bob Barr being elected and being given the nomination, and he was coronated. And that was a disaster for the party. I don't know what was wrong with the delegation at that period. Maybe they took a whiff of cocaine and smack and Captain Morgan with some LSD on the side or something. I don't know. I really can't figure out their mindset. But I could never figure out their mindset, especially on the day when it happened. But a number of libertarians balked. They left the party in droves. And what happened was, this is what happened. So this is what went on. And since then, since the Bob Barr fiasco, that circus sideshow freak style shit show of epic proportions happened, Bob Barr got he got the nomination. He ended up getting less than hovering around 1%, but it wasn't that good. And he did far worse than Harry Brown did. And Gary Johnson said, oh, well, we did it above 1%. You know, initially. Then it turned out, after all the election results came back completely, it was about 0.99%. It was less than 1%, which means that the entire candidacy of Gary Johnson in 2012 was nothing but a huge goddamn failure. And I swear, man, you know, in this year, 2016, I don't even know why he's running. Why? He didn't start out until February of this year. And this is a gripe I have with my fellow party members and with the party itself. Why are we starting presidential contests so fucking late? Seriously, why are we starting this shit late? We should be starting earlier, say in about a year prior to the convention, the national convention. We should be starting way early. We should be starting way early. We can't have presidential candidates coming in and you know, starting like 3 or 4 months before the convention. We need to start a little over a year early and get our ducks in a row. Start building a very big support base. Start building, you know, and start getting the word out, the campaigns and everything. If we truly want to be taken seriously as a political party, and I know a lot of people are hungry for that, I know a lot of people really want to see that happening, you guys, do it early next time. The Republicans do it. The Democrats do it. Why can't we? What's holding us back? I'm not saying we have to compromise our principles. That's not the issue here. The issue here is that we're doing a shitty job fielding candidates right exactly in an election year. We should be doing it a year before in advance. The other parties did it. We could have more debates. We could have... Ignore that. So we could be doing that. We could be doing this sort of thing. So, the Republicans did it early last year. They had a full slate of candidates that they had on stage. If we did that, and if we were poised to take over the entire major party status as a third party, being bumped up to major party status, if we really want that, then we need to start early. Another gripe I have with a number of people in the party is we need to reach out to independents. We need to reach out to everybody. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have to reach out to all Democrats and all Republicans, those who tend to be receptive to our message. And I just wanted to clarify that. I guess people sort of thought, well, it's not that we're just only recruiting Republicans and whatnot. Well, actually, you are. You're recruiting more Republicans than you're willing to admit. Start reaching out to people who are early. That's my advice. I've been doing this shit since the late 90s. I learned a thing or two while I've been in this movement, while I've been in this party. I worked out in a number of political campaigns over the years. I was, involved briefly with the Mike Corliss for a U.S. Senate campaign in Michigan. He's no longer in the party. He was a great